If you could start to take your seats, we'll be getting started in about a minute and 30 seconds. Ooh, we do this quickly. Thank you. Just give everybody a few more moments to get situated. Good evening. And welcome to the third annual Black Women Leading in Law, a tribute to the late Jean Camper Cahn. My name is Wendasha Jones-Ray, a 3L here at the University of District of Columbia, David A. Clarke School of Law. I am a first-generation law student and the publications editor of the UDC Law Review, Attorney General on the Student Bar Association, and three-time judicial intern at the DC Superior Court. I have completed over 600 hours in the Community Development Legal Clinic and the Criminal Defense Racial Justice Clinic. This May, I will become the proud alumna of this powerful public HBCU law school. I am proud to say I am not the only one in my family who will be graduating this upcoming May. My son will graduate with his bachelor's degree from William Penn University, and my daughter will graduate from high school. After graduation, I plan to practice business and criminal defense law, and by 2030, I will pursue my goal of teaching contracts here at UDC Law and ultimately become a judge.
That's right.
When reflecting on my remarks for this evening, I thought about my charge to discuss the past, the present, and the future. I cannot think about Jean Camper Cahn as if she is in the past because her legacy is very present here today. As I think about her accomplishments, I'm reminded of the Ghanaian proverb that we must act as if it's impossible to fail. She dedicated her life to responding to and defeating injustice. As a Black woman leading in law, Jean Camper Cahn and I share the same commitment. As Edgar Cahn wrote for Jean, there was always a price to be paid for every accomplishment, and somehow always a way of wresting from defeat a larger meaning, a larger vision, and somehow another opportunity to create. Throughout my time here at UDC Law, there are moments where I struggled with the rigor. I felt defeated and unsure if my desire to become a lawyer matched my ability to do so. No matter how much I read, highlighted what seemed to be every word on the page, it just did not stick. However, each day I got off the elevator to go to class, I saw Jean's picture, a Black woman who was not only a lawyer who practiced law, but started a law school. This law school was made for me. And with my faith, I was determined to finish successfully and pass the bar. My classmates, professors, coworkers, and family gave me their time and their help to encourage me. Soon things turned around. I started to do well. The rigor did not change. I did. I acted as if it is impossible to fail. This accomplishment is for a purpose that is bigger than me. It is for my family. It is for my community. Here at UDC Law, a leader in social justice and clinical education, Jean's legacy is thriving through the Black women in our law school's community. Our esteemed professors personify what it means to be a Black woman leading in law. They are leaders in litigation, anti-discrimination law, youth justice, and undoubtedly are breaking barriers to shape the future of the legal profession. Our professors have utilized the law school's mission of practice law, promote justice, and change lives to shape the leaders of tomorrow. They have shared with me that they believe leading in law is both a privilege and a responsibility in this political climate, that their very existence is both revolutionary and under attack, and the presence in this space is an act of resistance. They work together to shape the future of the legal profession and demonstrate to other Black women that they belong, that they are possible. We are emboldened to shape society through a lens in which we handle the world with more care. As the class of 2025 prepares to graduate, this is our time. I am proud to say that we reflect Jean and Edgar Cahn's vision of the school they created over 50 years ago. My classmates and I are determined to continue to advocate for the underserved and marginalized by addressing technical bias through tech law like Angela Banks, championing disability rights like Jasmine Hawks, or affordable housing like Gurleen Sede, providing zealous criminal defense like Gabrielle Kershaw, or assisting communities with tax like Kenny Reed. We continue to shape society with empathy and civil rights like Kendra Cooper, who believes that we may not change the world, but we can change the world with someone. As Jean Camper Cahn powerfully stated, we look for great issues that call upon us for commitment. Issues we're risking all. Issues we can affect, and in doing so, affect the destiny of humankind. Together, we must make a commitment to act as if it's impossible to fail. On behalf of the University of the District of Columbia, our nation's capital's only public, historically Black law school, UDC Law, the university's visionary leadership, our board of trustees, President Eddington, his cabinet, Chief Academic Officer Dr. Massey, the School of Law Foundation, the DC School of Law Foundation, the Cahn family, and staff, welcome to the third annual Black Woman Leading in Law. It is my pleasure to introduce to the stage our interim dean, Dean Angela Gilmore. Please give her a warm round of applause.
Every time I interact with one of our students, I walk away inspired. And I can tell you, I feel like I should just sit down. I can thank you. I am so encouraged and just inspired by your words and your passion. And when Dasha, while an extraordinary student, our only extraordinary serving as the interim dean of the University of the District of Columbia, David A. Clarke School of Law. And when I started at the law school, I was told that we host a spring event called Black Women Leading in Law. And I thought it was going to be on a Saturday afternoon, and I thought it was a luncheon or a tea where people come dressed in their Sunday best. They got their patent leather shoes, they have their fancy ties, and their fancy hats. But then I learned more about this event, and I knew it was going to be an incredible event. I did not know that it was going to be this incredible. To see all of you out here, given the weather that we are experiencing, to celebrate Black women who are leading in law, it makes me so proud to be a part of this university. So I am proud to welcome you here tonight as we honor our legacy, celebrate our present, and advocate for a just and peaceful future. Tonight, we pay special tribute to Jean Camper Cahn. Jean dedicated her career to social justice and change. Unsurprising, as she was raised by a family of activists. In fact, her father, John Emery Toussaint Camper, a doctor, founded the first chapter of the NAACP in Baltimore, where he was born and raised. And Jean later joined her father in the fight for civil rights. So together, they advocated for the rights of Black people to work and participate in their community. Jean was among the first Black students to attend Emma Willard School, an independent college preparatory day and boarding school in Troy, New York. After graduating from Emma Willard, she enrolled in Northwestern University. She later graduated from Swarthmore College and married Edgar Cahn, another Swarthmore graduate. That same year, she began pursuing her LLB at Yale Law School. After she earned her law degree in 1961, she and Edgar, who would also graduate from Yale Law School, were hired to run anti-poverty programs in Connecticut. Jean's experiences in New Haven, Connecticut, shaped their 1964 Yale Law Journal essay, The War on Poverty, a Civilian Perspective. This essay laid the foundation for the National Legal Services Program, a program that provides legal services to people who would otherwise not have access to them. It laid the foundation for the Urban Law Institute, a program Jean established at George Washington University with the goal of making the legal system and the rule of law itself relevant and responsive to the problems of people experiencing poverty, and laid the foundations for Antioch School of Law. Antioch School of Law, UDC Law's predecessor school, was founded by Jean Camper Cahn and Edgar Cahn, making Jean the first Black woman founder and the first Black woman dean of a law school. Is right. The school was established with the vision of creating a legacy that promotes advocacy and social justice. And this vision lives on today through our mission, our students, and our alumni. Those who knew and loved Jean would describe her as a force. In the words of Edgar Cahn, Jean gave because she could not stop giving any more than she could stop fighting. And because of her fight, we are gathered together in this room to honor her legacy. Because of her fight, thousands of UDC Law alumni are fighting for justice and change across the country, fighting for marginalized, and underrepresented populations, fighting for change in the classroom, at the local level, and advocating for nationwide policies, and so much more. When I think about our illustrious alumni, I think of someone like Karen Newton Cole. All right. Karen is a class of 1987 graduate and is the executive director of Neighborhood Legal Services Program, serving as its chief executive officer. And remember, the intellectual and organizational work of Jean Camper Cahn and Edgar Cahn was instrumental in providing philosophical guidance for the creation of Neighborhood Legal Services Program. For 60 years, NLSP has provided free civil legal services to low-income residents of the District of Columbia. I think about someone like Rashonda Hiley Thomas. Rashonda is the executive director of Advocates for Justice and Education, an organization designed to empowering families, youth, and the community to be effective advocates, ensuring that children and youth, particularly those with special needs, receive access to appropriate education and health services. I think about someone like our very own Salima Snow. Salima is a professor of law at UDC School of Law, and her scholarship focuses on religious profiling, poverty law, and the intersection of poverty, gender, and access to justice. And last, but certainly not least, and there are so many others that I could uplift, but I think about our keynote speaker, LaRuby May. LaRuby is an unapologetic advocate for people of color and empowers them to be whole and active participants in the civil justice system. In 2022, we inducted these 4 outstanding women as the first cohort of UDC Law's Alumni Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame recognizes those whose exemplary careers, extraordinary service, outstanding contributions to UDC Law has significantly impacted our community and beyond. It's without surprise that these women, these Black women, are leading in law. So tonight, as we pay special tribute to Jean Camper Cahn, let us remember her fight and sacrifices that have allowed us to be here. Because of her, UDC Law continues to educate students to practice law, promote justice, and change lives. I want to extend a special thank you to the Cahn and Camper family for leading the effort to raise funds to establish this Jean Camper Cahn Black Women Leading in Law series. Thank you. I also want to thank those of you who have made a gift in support of our students. At UDC Law, because we understand the importance of educating future generations of lawyers and supporting them in the pursuit of that education, we believe that economic circumstances should not be a barrier to obtaining a law degree. Your support has allowed us to provide our students with scholarships, paid fellowships, bar study programming, and professional development experiences. For those of you who would like to join us in this endeavor, you can support our students by visiting supportudclaw.com. There is also a QR code on the screen that you can use. I am deeply grateful for Jean Camper Cahn and the example that she provides for me, for you, for our students, faculty, and staff, and especially for Black women in law. Thank you for your support and for helping us continue the legacy of Jean Camper Cahn and Edgar Cahn. So thank you, and now please join me in a warm welcome for our host for the evening, Professor Shakisha Morgan.
Well, I am having a good time. Are you all? Awesome. It is my honor to introduce tonight's guest, an extraordinary leader, advocate, and trailblazer, attorney LaRuby May. LaRuby is a powerhouse attorney, entrepreneur, and former real estate developer who has spent over 30 years championing justice for communities of color. She is the co-founder of May Jung Law, where she unapologetically advocates for those often left out of the civil justice system. Her work spans complex litigation, including serving on the national legal teams representing Black and brown women in the hair relaxer and paraquat multi-district litigations with attorney Ben Crump. She is also, okay, go ahead, no, let her know. As a Black woman not with a relaxer, I still stand with those who choose to get it, okay? She is also a founding board member of Shades of Mass, an organization dedicated to increasing equity and diversity in mass tort and complex litigation leadership. Central to her practice is identifying and supporting plaintiffs from a grassroots level, particularly those who are disproportionately impacted. Beyond the courtroom, Attorney May's commitment to equity is clear. She played a pivotal role in arguing before the DC Council on legislation with broad social impact, including efforts to decriminalize prostitution and create equity between public and private workers' compensation systems. She also championed the Stormaya Denson-Jackson Economic Damages Equality Act, which eliminated race, and gender bias in how damages are calculated in DC's wrongful death cases. This was a landmark bill passed unanimously by the DC Council and approved by Congress. As the kids would say, she did that. As a former real estate developer, LaRuby remains proud of her work creating affordable housing, including a 91-unit senior housing project in Washington, D.C., named for civil rights legend Dovey Johnson Roundtree. Building lives and developing properties is a legacy she learned from her parents, one that continues to shape her approach to advocacy and service. A former DC Council member for Ward 8, LaRuby has always fought to uplift underserved communities, including serving as chair of both the DC Housing Authority Board of Commissioners and the United Medical Center Board of Commissioners. Her dedication to public service is matched by her commitment to mentoring the next generation of Black lawyers and leaders. LaRuby is a proud graduate of Eckerd College, the George Washington University, and the illustrious and amazing University of the District of Columbia, David A. Clarke School of Law. Her life's work reflects her guiding belief: the greatest privilege in life is to serve. Please join me in conversation with our amazing alumni, LaRuby May.
test.
It's good now. We're good now. We're good. If you are in here and you are my student, you understand why that happened. I am the worst at technology. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter. Good evening.
Good evening.
Glad to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you for, so grateful for the opportunity to be here.
Yes, of course. All right, so everyone, we're gonna be in conversation with Attorney May this evening, but we wanna start by giving her a few minutes to talk about a justice issue that she's passionate about and working on, but also we are here to celebrate Jean Camper Cahn. So you can talk a little bit about her work and how that inspires your own.
Thank you. So let me first take a privilege in being grateful, very thankful for the invitation to be here, not only by the institution and the leaders of this institution, but well received by the family of Jean Camper Cahn. Such a privilege. For me, as a person of faith, I'm also very grateful that the divine, that I call God, whatever your divine is, has granted me the opportunity to be here. I share with you today, my father would have been 98 years old had he lived today as his birthday, and so the opportunity to celebrate with his birthday with you is quite amazing. And so I do have my family here, and so in respect also to my Muslim brothers and sisters, a Ramadan Mubarak, as I know that you are in your season of Ramadan. So I celebrate your culture as we all celebrate each other. So I take executive privilege in taking a few of my minutes to recognize that in space of being here. I dare not compare anything in my life to Jean Camper Cahn, right? It's like, how has she impacted, or how has her legacy impacted my life? And when, you know, as Isaac Newton said, right, that if I can see further, right, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. And so if the reason I can sit here, the reason I'm a lawyer, right, the reason that I have had some of the experiences I have isn't because of the greatness in me. It is the greatness of the shoulders, the strength of the shoulders that I'm able to stand on. I feel, Sister, you just took us to church. I wanted to pull out an offering plate. You know, my daddy was a preacher, and we collect some money. We can get you some money, Dean. I feel like we can do that. And there's been so much that's been said about Jean Camper Cahn already this evening. I encourage all of you, if you haven't had a chance to just read more about her, just her life and her legacy. And I was trying to think, like, okay, what quote or what about her that, like, Ruby, if you were to graciously take from her philosophy in life, that's applicable to you. And one of the quotes she has said, or been given credit for, is, fighters transform fighters, right? And so when I think about the privileges I've been given in this life as a first-generation law student, right, as a person who has had the opportunity to unapologetically fight on behalf of Black folk and brown folk, right, that in those experiences, I've been able to do that with other folks, because of other folks, transforming other folks to be able to do it, allowing them to have the comfort, allowing them to have the confidence to be able to fight as well. And we know now in this season of our country that we need fighters. And so for those of you who don't know, I'm from Lower Alabama, better known as Pensacola, Florida. And it's for other folks that don't know, it's Trump country. Matt Gaetz was our Congress member, DeSantis was our governor, and Trump was our president. And so the racism that experience where I'm from is pretty significant. But the reality in this season that we're in nationally, Black folk been here, right? This isn't a new paradigm for us. The exclusions for us didn't just start in January when Mr. Trump came into office. Our issues, where we are, our fight Jean Camper, let me just tell you, I'm country, and it's so hard for me to call her Jean Camper Cahn because I just want to call her Mrs. Cahn because my mama, my mama would be upset if I didn't. She'd be mad at me, right? So I'm trying to respectfully, but the struggles of Black folk. Think about it. Mrs. Cahn and Mr. Cahn couldn't get married in Baltimore, right? Their struggles of being an interracial couple, but her struggles of being a Black woman are still today, right? Black women are still struggling for respect. Black women are still struggling to be recognized, 50, 60 years later than the fight. And so if we don't transform fighters, if we don't have institutions like the University of the District of Columbia, David A. Clarke School of Law, fighting and transforming fighters, we'll never win this war on poverty, right, that Jean Camper Cahn and Edgar Cahn really began and hasn't ended, unfortunately, right? If we don't transform fighters to do that, we'll never win. And I'm just, I don't know if I'm a glutton for punishment or whatever it is, but I just won't stop fighting, right? And so.
I love that you started with that quote, fighters transform fighters. I'm taking that with me.
It ain't mine, so you can have it.
Both you and Jean Camper Cahn, Mrs. Cahn, have shown, because fighting can be done in different ways. And both you and Mrs. Cahn have shown that defining yourself is an act of resistance, as Windasha talked about, and power. Her work empowered individuals to reclaim their power in a legal system, as you just said, not built for them. And by doing so, she solidified herself as a trailblazer, especially when there was no clear path forward. So talk to us a bit about how owning your narrative has shaped the way you approach justice, and why is self-definition so critical for those working to change the legal system?
So I think, again, I dare not, and respectfully to the family, I dare not compare anything in my life to the greatness of the legacy of Mrs. Cahn, but I do find some opportunities of similarity to share that are also been a part of my fight that are similar to her fight. I think about the story of her brother and the lack of adequate medical treatment for him as a Black male, and what that did in leading to the many issues that he had in life. I think about my dad, right, in a segregated South, needing adequate medical treatment, and at the time, only one white doctor, would see Black folk, right? And he didn't see them because he was an Edgar Cahn and he was so compassionate about making sure that he got adequate health care. He saw them because nobody else, and he just figured he could make some money. And so provided horrible care. I wouldn't even consider it care that he provided to my father in terms of health care. And, years later, right, my father, we got a little bit better care, and the doctors say, had you, an idiot with a stethoscope, right, could have diagnosed you into understanding and having a higher quality of life. And I look at how Mrs. Cahn's brother's life story motivated her to fight for that injustice. And when I had the opportunity, as mentioned, to chair the board at United Medical Center, for those of you who don't know, is the only public hospital in the district. It's the only hospital serving Ward 7 and Ward 8 and PG County. It's been distraught. It's been underfunded. It's been all those things. And when I was given the opportunity to chair the board, they say, LaRuby, there's a board over here of the convention center, and you get to travel to London and fly and have a driver, and there's a lot of perks over here. And they said, or you can go over to the United Medical Center, and you could be the chairman of the board there. And the only thing I could think about is that if my daddy had a fighter in the hospital system for him, I believe in God's timing, so I think my dad's death was meant to be the timing of his death. But I also believe he may not have suffered if there had been a fighter in the hospital system wanting to make sure that poor black, my daddy wore overalls that had paint and tar on them, and he had a truck that had holes in the thing, and so that's how he was treated. And there was not a fighter, there was not a Mrs. Cahn, there was not a LaRuby, right? There was not a future UDC law student that was at that hospital sitting in a position of authority to make sure that the treatment that everyone who came through the door received was not only adequate, but that it was beyond. It was of the highest quality. And so I think that allows for me, when you say like kind of that self experience as it relates to the work and to what Mrs. Cahn has done in self-reflection for myself.
You know, you said some important things there about how some of the meaningful work that needs to happen can be under-resourced, can be understaffed. And it actually makes me think of those who came with us. So some of our students recently came back from Jackson, Mississippi, and I think I can speak for them because they told me, so I'm just going to repeat what they said, that it was a transformative trip. Right, during this trip, we visited the Lorraine Motel where Dr. King was shot. We were in the courtroom where Emmett Till's murderers were tried. We stopped at the river where his body was found. But we also had an opportunity for a week to work with the advocates at the Mississippi Center for Justice. And so they got to see in real time meaningful work happening. And so you've talked a bit about some of the injustice that you've witnessed. The work that you've done has helped to address some of that injustice. So I want to actually, pivoting a question that I had, to talk a little bit about creativity and how you have used your creativity, how you have addressed the circumstances that you're seeing, the injustices that you've seen, in order to still impact and provide meaningful help to those you're trying to serve.
So the first thing is, I would probably say my sisters and my niece and nephews right there would be like, she is not creative. So she don't really have a good answer for this question, because that is not her ministry. So I think that got to start with that disclaimer, right? But what I would say, it's the experiences of life that shape. And so similarly to how you and the students went down to Mississippi and had that experience, and I would imagine for some of your students, some of them old enough to be your mom, so you're a little bit younger, so I can imagine that some of your students, and especially if they're not from the South, right, their experience of this is not personal, right? There is a indirect personal experience because you're Black in America, right? But there's not a direct experience because of the lived one. Well, as I mentioned, had my father been living today, he would have turned 98. So my experience of understanding what happened to Black folk in segregated systems, white-only water fountains, my father was an indentured servant, right? So my experience, right, the creativity, you know, if you want to call it that, right, what has creatively shaped and molded the person that I am, the way that I think, how I view the world, how I respond to the world, has been because of the experiences I've had, not just as a Black woman, but as a Black woman who grew up having conversations with your mama and your daddy about integrating schools, about your mama and your daddy about how it's been being called different things, being minimized. And so for me, I think that how I've come to view the world, right, is through those experiences. When, you know, my great aunts who were the closest thing to a grandparent for my dad, like, when you understand that they would work 40 hours a week, sometimes 50, 60 hours a week for 25 cents, right? Like that shapes the creative experience for you, right? When my great aunt, I had the privilege of interviewing her when I was in undergraduate school, and she was old when I was born. So like by this time she's like really old, and she said, LaRuby, in this interview, she said the treatment and the experience of growing up when she did as a child, and essentially being, working and cleaning the house for the white man. She said, the things that folks don't really appreciate and understand. And she said, at this time in the country, they call it Missy Girl. When you start your mental cycle, they call you Missy. You became a Missy Girl, right? And I had become a Missy Girl. And she said, it wasn't only cleaning the house and not getting the money. She said, but do you know what it is to clean up before disposable sanitary napkins behind a dirty, stinky person? That was her reality, right? Like, so those stories, those understandings that, again, not to discredit anyone who learns about them in a book or anyone who learns about them through a museum, right? But those of us who are both burdened and privileged to experience those things from real life, I guess it would be my answer in terms of how it has shaped me such that what you may view as a creative approach is the way in which I approach the world.
As you were talking, I can imagine that as you've navigated these spaces, learned from your own family, that there were values that you walked away with. And that as you've navigated all of these different spaces and these different roles, that you've had to come back to those values. Can you talk a little bit about some of those guiding principles that have taken you from law school, from the country to law school, to real estate, to public service, to owning and operating a law firm?
Certainly, I think there's a couple of them. My mom, all of our lives, and my mother's still living, has told us, you do the right thing because it's the right thing, right? And you don't need anyone to tell you that. You don't need anyone around you, right, in order to do those things. Now, as I've become older and I've established, again, for me, my faith and my relationship with the divine that I call Christ, I understand that you do the right thing because it glorifies God for me, right? And I think that's even what my mom really was kind of saying in terms of like how we do the right thing. I think as in the introduction of me, when I was campaigning to be the leader of Ward 8 on the city council, which I was very privileged to do, a friend sat me down and said, LaRuby, one of the greatest privileges in this life is to serve. And he said, but LaRuby, everybody wants to serve. He was like, it doesn't matter what the issue is or what the environment is. He's like, but generally speaking, right, unless you just on Pennsylvania Avenue right now, right, you generally speaking, people just want to serve. He said, but this is the difference, right? The difference is, LaRuby, you've been given the privilege to serve with resources. And when you have resources and you understand your privilege to serve, then that's when you are able to provide, right? That's when you're able to change and transform the lives of others because you're willing to provide the resources that you've been blessed or gifted with to those who need it.
I want to talk a bit about, let's stick in the values a bit, right? The privilege to serve and carrying that with you. And I want to shift a little bit to talk a bit about, that was your internal compass, but let's talk a little bit about the external things that sometimes affect us, right? Because when we talk about law school, the legal profession, it often emphasizes external validation, right? Grades, job titles, law school rankings, prestige, those kind of things. And so as a Black woman and lawyer and leader who has navigated several different roles, I'm sure that you have faced external definitions of who you should be, either because of where you came from, the fact that you're a first-generation lawyer, as am I, as is Wendasha, where you should be, whether or not you should belong, how you should be, or what you can achieve. When I think about some of the experience of the students here at the law school, you know, they are also going to have to deal with what others tell them success looks like. What do you have to say to them about how to stay grounded in yourself and your values, even when externally someone is telling you something different that doesn't resonate?
What'd you say, Adriana? You have an answer? Okay, I'm looking for help. No.
I didn't write that one down, so I was just kind of going with the flow here.
No. Very similar to Mrs. Cahn. In my elementary, middle school years, I went to all white institutions, right? And it was a commute for us. My baby sister's too young. My older sister remembers this. And we kind of got to the school because my daddy had a very special skill set in construction that rich white folk wanted. And because they wanted his skill set, you know, they let us in the school. Now, they didn't give us scholarships. Now, I just can't understand that part. But they did let us in and let my daddy pay for us to go to school. But every day on our way to school, my mother would tell us that no one is better than you. Mm-hmm. She would tell us that you're not better than them, but nobody is better than you. My mother literally just affirmed that. She said they may have a bigger house, they may have more money, right? No matter what they have. She just always just affirmed us in being who we are, and being Black, and being compassionate, and being kind, and being who we are. So I think it would be difficult for me to tell a student, specifically a Black woman law student, right? A woman student, it would be very difficult for me to tell you what you need to think about yourself in order to navigate the world, especially the legal world. I think what is imperative for me to say to you is that the world ain't gonna change until you change it. So today, when you go into that world as a Black woman, be prepared to be treated how your grandma and them was treated as Black women, right? If you go into the legal world, right, be prepared to be treated like Mrs. Cahn. Be prepared to be treated like Debbie Roundtree, right? And so if you go into that space prepared for the treatment, doesn't matter how you get treated because you're ready to win from day one. That's right. And so for me, if I were to, you know, give advice, which I try not to do, right? I can't. I mean, there's some people that might, but so I can't. I think it would be disingenuous for me to tell you that, like, this is the way that you should feel, right? That these are the skill sets that you need to go into an environment that doesn't want you. What I need to tell you is, it don't matter that they don't want you, right? Like, we belong. You belong at the table, right?
That's right.
And I know most of my work and most of the things that I kind of fight for along my career journey really focus on Black and brown folk. But, you know, we need white folk too. I used to tell folk, y'all know the abolitionists was white, right? Mm-hmm. They helped us, right? And so we not only need to make sure that our black and brown brothers and sisters, specifically sisters, are prepared to go into the fight and know that it's going to be a fight, but we need our white sisters and our white brothers to understand that the fight that they're going into and to exercise their privilege, right, becomes important for us to continue to be able to fight and be prepared for the fight.
Yeah. I love the idea of being prepared for the fight. And I can imagine that as you were a law student, not really sure about where your journey was going to take you, you might have been prepared for the fight, but unsure of where the fight was going to land you in a particular context. So what can you say to students who want to fight, ready for the fight, prepared for the fight, but also unsure about what's next, feeling some anxiety about securing jobs in this competitive legal landscape, especially where prestige and competition can feel overwhelming? What could you say to those students?
You know, I had the privilege of speaking, was it last week for the, I think it was the Women's Law Society, and woo-woo. And I got I think a similar question, right, in terms of like, what can I tell them? Like, what can I tell students in terms of preparation, right? That's the question I want to make. I'll be forgetting sometimes. And I think the best way to prepare, right, for it in preparing for the fight is, you know, Allen Iverson said practice. We're talking about practice, right? Law school provides you that opportunity to practice preparing for the fight. And so you're at least, and let me claim this for me. I have greater anxiety when I'm not prepared. I have greater anxiety when I haven't practiced, right? And so when you're thinking about anxiety about going into the world and into this job market, right, then it's really about practicing going into the job market. And I'm not saying practicing by doing interviews, right, but practice about doing the work. Do you come over on Alabama Avenue, Martin Luther King Avenue, Marion Barry Avenue? There's a lot of folks a lot of places in my community that gives you an opportunity to practice doing law, practice helping people, right? And so then when you get ready to go into this job market, this competitive job market, and you get ready to go and interview, you already been practicing. You already prepared, right? You already understand the law school, right? The dean is going to make sure that you're prepared, right, to take the bar, to understand and to break down and to parse down the law, right? But also, and respectfully, Dean, right, fight here. The fight at UDC, right, is a real fight, right? You know, when I was here at the law school, my class, my 1L class, had 100 students. 15 of us were black, right? So fight, right? Like being in law school doesn't prepare you to fight externally only. It prepares you to fight in the space. And if you don't make a decision as a lawyer to fight in the space that you're in because you're thinking about the space you're going to, how can you win out there if you've not won in here? And I just think that that's it.
All right. We have been having this awesome conversation with the amazing LaRuby May, and we are going to take a couple of questions from the audience. In the meantime, in between time, we are going to hear a couple of words from Jonathan Cahn,
Jean Camper Cahn's son, to talk a little bit about his mom. And you can prepare your question in that meantime. So let's welcome him.
Wow. It feels really good to be home. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. It feels really good to be home. In one way or another, I've been with this school for about 50 years. And I've seen many people come through. And I want to just say, I've had conversations with... You just want me to go bear? Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Anyway, I've had conversations with LaRuby. LaRuby is far more creative than she's prepared to confess. I'm looking forward to our next conversation because she's both extraordinarily creative, but she is unbelievably stubborn and persistent. And I think that's and courageous, and that's what you need in your lawyer. And Dasha, I've got to tell you something. I know from which you took the quote that about great, waiting for those moments that to which you can give your life and make your commitment. And that's a very important piece that you took that from. It's one that's very dear to me, so thank you so much. And I would say to you, you have a kind of presence. You have a presence that would have impressed my mother very much. And I know that. She and I litigated, we were co-counsel on the very last case, civil rights case that she tried. You should go, it's called Meek versus Martinez, and you should go look at her closing argument. I think you could pull that one off. I mean, really. I really think you're a natural. Well, so thank you, everyone, for being here. I was asking myself before I came in what my mother would think at this moment. And I think as we gather here this evening, I think she would be saying the following words: our democracy is under siege. We are watching as an administration, daily, unfettered by law, without regard to the Constitution, the economy, our nation's future, is taking a battering ram to our government. And the stakes couldn't be higher. Our democracy hangs in the balance. And then she would probably repeat the words that she offered at the inaugural convocation of the Antioch School of Law, which is the predecessor institution. So if you will, I'll paraphrase, because it certainly applies to this institution. This law school is not morally neutral. We are inescapably committed to those values central to the legal profession, lessons we know through centuries of resistance to injustice and arbitrary power. If you are committed to those values, which I believe the people in this room are, we have one hell of a fight ahead of us. So I'm going to use my allotted 2 minutes. I've probably already gone way over that. To let you have a sense of how my mother would have responded at this moment. Let me take you back to 1983. She was still recovering from a stroke. My father had had a heart attack in 1980. He had not actually expected to live, but you saw what a good surgeon and clean living can do. And we were watching as President Reagan systematically destroyed everything that we had endeavored to create, the Great Society and the Great Society programs, and then sought to roll back all of the advances of civil rights that we had claimed over the past decades. And then in December, death arrived. And you know about that because you read the piece, right? Clyde Ferguson, a dear friend, a friend that went back to her childhood in Baltimore, a great comrade, died suddenly, unexpectedly. He was what many of us know as the grandfather of the whole concept of affirmative action. But for those of us in the international space, we know him as the author of the UNESCO Statement on Race, as one of the first real adversaries of the state of South Africa in apartheid. And for me, he was also very important because he was the second African American law professor at Harvard. And he had been my mentor. So in her memorial to Clyde, she ends with the following recollection. And I want you to imagine her, because really, this can only be done by a black woman. So you're going to have to just think about her as I speak the words. When things got bleakest, Clyde and I used to take turns telling each other a favorite story. One I heard from my father, and he heard from his. In a pinch, one of us would just quote the punchline, and we would both break up laughing. The story went this way. There was a revival meeting in this small town in Eastern Shore, Maryland. Black people came from all over the state. The preacher preached, the choir and the congregation sang. Then came the testimonials in that crowded tent. First Lady got up, ran to the front to praise the Lord and to let everyone know that she'd gotten religion. She was young, light brown skin, and pretty. She said, "I ain't been on this road long, but I've seen the light. Praise God Almighty." Then a middle-aged lady, rather plump in a pretty go-to-Sunday meeting dress, wound her way up to the front and declared, "I've been on this road for 10 years now, and I'm happy, Lord. I'm grateful." Finally, the oldest, blackest, most sanctified member of the congregation rose slowly to her feet. She wore a blue house dress and an old black straw hat. Her arthritic hands grabbed the seat in front of her as she pulled herself to her feet. Gray hair straggled from her chin. Her age commanded a hush. She turned half round to look about. She looked to the right, to the left. Then, in a deep bass voice that resounded through the tent, she said, "I've been on this road nigh on to 79 years. Turn back now? Shit." I think, in fact, I know Jean Camper Cahn would have us all remember that punchline when things get going tough. Turn back now? Shit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jonathan. That was amazing. We will take 2 questions from the audience. If you'd like to ask a question, there is a mic right there in the middle. Go ahead. Please tell us your name and ask your question. It's on.
Testing? Okay. I'm gonna bring it up a little bit. I'm gonna need a lot of tissue. So my name is Azira. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So I didn't come here tonight to just be heard. I came because I have no choice. I am Ramaya's mom. And for 2 years, I've been forced to fight a system designed to break me, but I won't be broken. They say justice is blind, but I've watched it turn its face away from mothers like me, black mothers, mothers who live, who love fiercely, but whose love is dismissed as dangerous. I've spent sleepless nights drowning in legal jargon, fighting lawyers who saw me as a case number instead of a mother in pain. I've emptied my savings, drained my spirit, and stood in courtrooms with my words and twisted and ignored. My dignity was battered from motions and continuances, and still my daughter is not home. I gave birth to her March 30th, 2022. I'm tired, I'm weak, I'm a mother of 3, and I shouldn't have to stand alone. To the black women in law here tonight, I know you understand the weight of what I'm carrying. You've seen mothers like me. You know that justice isn't won by who is right, but by who can afford the best defense. Yet, despite knowing this, I choose to fight. And I'm here for a reason. This is my 3rd Ramadan going through this. My first Ramadan, I prayed my daughter off of life support because the hospital told me to pull the plug, and I didn't. I said no. I just so happen to be a domestic violence survivor, and I know that the medicine that they've been giving her has not been clinically tested. And when I told them that, they called CPS on me and they took her. So it was really hard for me to come here tonight. My friend is accepted here as a law student. Congratulations. And we've been fighting, but I don't know what else to do. And I'm just here with y'all, and I appreciate everybody. But Allah brought me here for a reason, and I've just been praying, and I've been practicing patience, but I just need y'all help. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
So, sister, again, tell me your name. I apologize. What's your name again, sister? Azira. Sister Azira. Again, Ramadan Mubarak for you, sister, in your season of Ramadan. And I dare not try to say that I understand what you're saying because I'm not a mother, right? But what I can say to you, right, is in understanding the struggle of black women, the mistreatment of black women. We often, when we hear justice reform, many of our minds go directly to criminal justice. It doesn't automatically go to civil justice, right? Or the justice we need in a system. Right now, sister, I represent, my firm represents a family of a young sister just like yourself in the state of California. The sister had marijuana in her system, and so the foster care system took her young infant child from her because she tested positive for marijuana. She went through the system, did all the classes, did everything that she could do to have her child returned to her. They left the child in a foster care system where the baby died of dehydration and starvation. For no reason did they not give her back her child other than she was a young black mother in a system that was not culturally sensitive to what the needs of this mother was. And sister, I don't know all the full detail. I'll be here when it's over. You want to come talk to me, you won't get my cell phone number, right? We can talk about it. But what I can tell you, and again, I'm a preacher's kid, so it's just some of those things that come out in me, right? So I believe in kind of like a cadence. I believe in an energy. And in this space right here, we're celebrating Jean Camper Cahn because we are the legacy of Jean Camper Cahn. And that legacy would not allow for us to be in this space and not try to give you the energy, give you the support that you need. So I just want everybody to reach your hand towards this sister. And what I want you to say to yourself is, what my shirt says is, I am the Cahn legacy. Now y'all say it with your hand out. Say, I am the Cahn legacy. Therefore, I will support you, my sister. We'll talk after, sister. Okay, please be. Thank you for sharing. That's it. I get out with one question. Oh, you have a question? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Yes, ma'am.
So good evening. I am Carol Bush, known as Carol with the K. So I'm going to say first, Windasha, I am so immensely proud of you. Yeah, so we have some big things coming because you have a story to share that is beyond this platform right here. So my question, okay, so I'll start by saying that I have 3 daughters. I have a high school senior, so yay Jordan, yay Leah. So my question is, with the drastic changes over the last 2 months in this country in regards to the value of inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, what encouragement and advice would you give to young Black women who, prior to January, were enthused about entering law, but now are discouraged?
Thank you for the question. Are these your babies up here? Up front? I thought you're high school. Oh, no. These are your babies. Oh, okay. These your babies. Okay. Well, y'all got a strong, good mama. Follow her, right? So, what would I tell some young sisters who were thinking about law school before now, and now they don't want to go to law school? You know, what I would tell them is, first of all, I would make sure to help them understand the context of where we are. And I'm not saying that you're not, but this is me answering, right? And the context of where we are in terms of the DEI is, the reality is DEI helped white women more than it's helped Black folk, right? So the fight in which you wanted to enter into the ring and being a lawyer before January, right, hasn't changed for us, right? And so I would say, like, hey, because I want you to understand that the fight hasn't changed, right? I need you to get in the ring so that you change the fight, right? And so that would really kind of be, I mean, I have a young high school niece right here and a going into high school nephew right here. And part of the reason I made them come, right, is because I want them to understand that the fight that their grandfather and great-grandfather and grandmother had is a very similar fight to the fight that not only they have today, but the fight they're going to have once they go to college and once they go to law school or to professional school, right? And so the encouragement becomes more about, we ain't arrived. We hadn't arrived yet, right? And so sometimes, right, because we're so removed from the struggle, right, we think that we have. When God has blessed us, or the divine has blessed us such that our parents have provided us with nice clothes, nice shoes, right? Food, right? In some situations, right? It's the perspective, right? That the fight that my grandmother had in segregated times is still the fight that we have today. And the same way we needed a Mrs. Cahn is the same way we need your beautiful daughters to fight the fight for us again. So as their mother, I want to encourage you to fight in their presence so that you fight and you transform fighters for the next generation.
This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you to LaRuby May for reminding us, as Jean Camper Cahn so eloquently said, is that fighters, what was it? Fighters transform fighters. And so I hope you feel encouraged to go out and fight in the spaces that you can with what you have, the resources you have. In closing tonight's conversation, I do want to remind you all that tomorrow is the Law Review Symposium. And as LaRuby was talking about, you know, the fight is still the fight, and sometimes the landscape has changed in some different ways. And so that is what the Law Review Symposium wants to talk about tomorrow. We will be joined by Chief Judge Anna Blackburn-Rigsby, Chief Judge E. Gregory Wells. They'll be talking about how AI and technology are changing practice standards and the way that we work in the law. And they will also be celebrating the 20th anniversary of the DC Access to Justice Commission. So we hope that you will come back and join us tomorrow at 12 p.m. in the Moot Courtroom. And thank you all again for joining us tonight for this amazing conversation. Thank you to the Cahn family, to all the representatives, the students, staff, the alumni, and to our guest tonight, Attorney LaRuby May. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
I got the one.